So hopefully you've seen the highlights from Sunday, the PTO Dorney race, and how I did. But today we're going to look at what it took for me to be able to do that and lead out the race from the swim and then subsequently on the bike for a few laps, and what it took to then go on and potentially win the race when I compare myself to someone like Tom. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you've been watching the little series and how I've been getting on. It doesn't take 2 seconds for you, makes no difference to you whatsoever, but it helps the channel grow. So yeah, that would be much appreciated. So yeah, we'll get straight into it. We'll go from a swim, bike, run perspective. We'll start with the swim and we'll look at it from a little bit of a psychological perspective, technology perspective, and the numbers that it took to be able to produce what was done. So in the swim, you may or may not have noticed in the footage, I got in right at the end, just before we had to start the race. And I just swam all the way to the other side of the line, had space to myself, and it was absolutely fine when starting the race. So I had loads of space to myself. Jack Shaler was just to my right and he went off like an absolute train. I didn't really suck his hip at all. I gave a little bit of a gap. Just swam next to him. I could just about see over the top of him to see where the other guys were, because the faster guys were on the far right hand side and started right next to the pontoon, because that was the more direct line towards the first buoy. So I was a little bit ajar to the perfect line, so to speak, but it didn't really matter because the first buoy was 900 meters away or 800 meters away, so there was plenty of time to be able to move across. I basically stuck to my line. I stayed right on that left-hand side and just carried on going. Jack Shaler kind of shimmied back, maybe onto my feet, or bottled it and went over to the other side and joined the others. But I kind of looked across and I was like, okay, they're starting to go underneath my shoulder, starting to fade back a little bit. I just carried on going in a straight line. And yeah, I just carried on swimming relatively hard, not too hard, comfortable pace, and just made sure that I was still pulling a little bit of a gap. Shimmied over towards the first buoy, so I had to veer right a little bit, and then once I turned the first buoy, I was able to look back down where we were going, and I was able to see the rest of the group were a fair distance behind me already. So I was like, okay, I'll carry on pushing on a little bit, comfortable, steady pace, and see where I get to. It was a rectangle course, so just cut across the top and then back. And on my way back, I kind of had that like mentally kind of you're being chased sort of feeling. So I didn't relax. I kept pushing on, but again, not overexerting myself, just like kind of a comfy speed sort of scenario. So yeah, I got to the end of the swim, popped my head up, jumped out of the water. Some massive fish just before we got out of the water, or I got out of the water. I was like, whoa, almost shit myself, but you know. Took a quick look back when I was running to transition and saw that the other guys were a fair distance away, which was actually quite surprising. I wasn't expecting that. So quite a nice little buffer. I wasn't wearing a swim skin, so this meant that my transition was really quick. I was a bit stressing about it a little bit before the race, but nevertheless, it didn't seem to affect my swim too much. I mean, I managed to get out first and ahead of Tom Bishop and Tom Davis, who are renowned good swimmers, so yeah, I wasn't disappointed in that whatsoever. In terms of the speed, I actually can't really tell you exactly what it was, because it seemed like it was a little bit of a long swim. I don't think it was 1800 meters, which is what they claimed that it was. I reckon it was more like 1900, 1950, and that would have equated to about, I think it was 74, 75 per 100. So it kind of felt that sort of intensity, as in pretty steady, not too hard, but it didn't feel like a 78, 79, which is what it would have been had it been 1800 meters. Anyway, from transition, got out onto the bike and just settled into a rhythm. I went there with the aim of about 330 watts that I wanted to average or normalize throughout the ride. And yeah, there's heat and stuff like that, but I just wanted to see what 330 watts felt like over that distance, because I know that that is roughly what the top of the top, like Gustav Iden and people like that, are able to push for a 70.3 / Daytona sort of race, or that race distance. So I just thought, screw it, I'm just going to go and see if I can push that for this distance and see what happens afterwards. What happened afterwards, like, that's by the by, I'll go into that afterwards. But yeah, so I settled into that 330 watt rhythm, just kept on plugging away. I saw a couple of people were behind me, and that turned out to be Luke Pollard and Tom Davis. Again, they were about 45 seconds behind, coming out of the water and onto the first couple of laps of the bike. So I held about 330 watts for the whole thing, roughly, but Luke and Tom caught me after about 4 laps, which you can see on the Training Peaks data. There was 4 laps of me holding a pretty steady power, decent speed, and then all of a sudden Luke comes past and I try and go with him just because why not? It's worth trying to do. I'm gonna try and race it. Tried going with him for a little bit. You can see this little spike. 360 watts I think it was for a few minutes to try and stick with him. And then I bottled it. I was like, nah, this is not gonna happen. I'm not gonna be able to sustain this for the rest of the race. Anyway, canned that idea. Got back into my rhythm. Tom Davis came past me, caught up to Luke, like fair play, that is a massive effort. I mean, Tom's aero position is second to none, so I hope he didn't have to push over 360 watts for that long to be able to catch him. But like either way, very impressive. Anyway, came into T2, 45 seconds down to the leaders, I think it was, and I had about 90 seconds ahead of 4th place. So I was in 3rd, wrapped the bike, saw the other 2 head off, got my trainers on, got my trainers on, and cracked onto the run. First K of the run was nice and steady. I looked at the watch, about 3:25, 3:30 per K. I was like, okay, if I can settle into this is going to be a good run. As it transpires, I think on the bike, because of the wind and the cooling effect of the wind and the speed that you were going at, it wasn't too bad in terms of the heat. However, when you get onto the run, you're not going very fast, you're not getting that breeze to cool you down, and a K or 2 into the run, that heat just hit me like a train, and I couldn't do anything about it. So 3:25, 3:30 per K all of a sudden became about 3:50 per K, and I cramped up in my leg really badly, just the one leg for some reason. I think I have a bit of a limp anyway. So psychologically, it quickly became, okay, let's hold this pace, to let's just put one foot in front of the other. And that was quite disappointing for me because obviously I was doing quite well. I was in 3rd place. I had quite a big gap between me and 4th place. And if I'd run how I thought I was able to run, then you never know. Hindsight is bliss. But anyway, like, the guys that came past me had obviously managed themselves far better throughout the race. They'd obviously fueled better, rode maybe slightly easier, so that they're able to produce the run that they're capable of at the end of it. So at the end of the day, I've done a good swim and bike. I underfueled on the bike heavily, so I didn't eat enough, I didn't drink enough. I only had 1 bottle on the bike. Rookie, so rookie. Won't be making that mistake again. But that all being said, I went and produced a really good, for me, swim and bike, and that put me in the race. However, it's a triathlon. It's swim, bike, run, not swim, bike. So I need to now produce the full package, not just 2 disciplines, not just 1 discipline. I need to do all 3 and then see where I'm at. The fact that I got to the run and conked out, essentially, that just means that I didn't manage myself correctly over the first 2 disciplines, and that's down to me. Like, I have the ability there. The fact that I overcooked it either due to nutrition or biking too hard or swimming too hard or whatever it was, that's my fault, no one else's, and I just didn't manage myself correctly. So hopefully next time round I'll be able to do that and produce a far better performance. But yeah. And the next race is this weekend, and I've quickly gone from sprint distance triathlons in Llanelli to standard distance triathlons in that first Eton Dorney triathlon. Then this triathlon, which was the intermediary between Olympic and 70.3, and now this weekend, which is going to be the 70.3 in Nottingham, the Outlaw hosted event. So I'm really looking forward to it in a way. My legs have only just started to recover. We're now on Thursday, and the cramp that I experienced in that one leg has only just started to release itself, and I was honestly not sure if I was going to be able to compete this weekend at all. I thought that the leg wasn't going to release and that I was just going to have to call it, but it started to ease up. The legs have started coming back to me. But yeah, phenomenal performances from Tom on all three disciplines. He obviously managed himself to perfection, got to the end of the run about 6 minutes ahead of me in total, so I think I ran about 3:50, 3:55 per K. It was pretty much slower than what I do my Sunday long runs. So it was slow, to say the very least. I think essentially what happened was my body imploded, the heat got the better of me, I was obviously malnourished for the race. I came onto the run depleted, and then the muscles were starved of what they needed, whether it be blood, nutrients, sugars, salts, etc, etc. So I came to a standstill. He must have run about 3:30, 3:35 per K, I reckon. So yeah, really enjoyable race. Thank you very much to the Professional Triathletes Organisation and Dorney Lake Triathlon for putting it on and hosting it. Incredible experience for me to be up against the pros, and I look forward to doing it again in the future, essentially. Again, don't forget to hit like if you've enjoyed the video or the videos that I've been putting out, and don't forget to subscribe because it helps the channel grow and doesn't take you 2 seconds, and it means nothing to you, doesn't affect you in any way, shape or form, but it helps me. So thank you very much, and I'll see you again next time, hopefully for a little bit of a review of what's coming up in Nottingham and a little bit more on the tech on my bike and how that's affected the previous couple of races, and hopefully how I've changed things going forward to help me feel better and be a little bit better in terms of the nutritional side of things. Thanks for watching, see you next time.